everyone, this is Venom, and we are back for another build video for Destiny 2. I do apologize, I was out last week, I was sick, and then my back went out, so we are back with some build videos this week with a vengeance. Now, first off, we are going to be doing a very super build for the Solar Hunter. And when I say super build, I mean you're going to be getting your super back a lot with this build. Now, this build is rated for low to mid-tier content. This is not a build for Grandmasters. This build is completely reliant on getting kills on your enemies, which is obviously going to disqualify that from Grandmasters. Again, just because a build is not rated for Grandmasters does not mean it is a bad build. Grandmaster builds oftentimes are not going to be great for low-tier content because they're going to be much slower in taking out enemies in that low-tier content, whereas the build such as this, which is made for taking out low-tier content. So this one's going to be rated for at-level content. You're going to be your low-tier content to your mid-tier stuff. That's going to be your raids, your basic dungeons, even Legend Lodge Searchers, this will be just great for. But your everyday stomp around build, this is going to be great for. Now, what is it going to revolve around? Well, this is going to be a build that revolves around the Shards of Galanor, which got a retune recently, and it's going to help us to get our super back super quickly and have infinite, if not near infinite, melee charges. Now, what does the Shards of Galanor do? Well, it's got the Sharp Edges perk. What it does is, throwing knife final blows decrease the cooldown of your super. That is the new part of it. It did not used to do that. Hits and final blows with the Blade Barrage will return super energy after the super ends. That's what it has always done. So basically, whenever you use your super, for every enemy you hit with it, you're going to get energy back to your super automatically, up to 50%. Okay? It's like Orpheus Rig for Solar Hunters using the Blade Barrage. And again, it only goes up to 50% and used to give up to 100% of your super back. You could spam it with enough enemies, and of course does not do that anymore. Now, the new perk is that your throwing knife final blows are also going to charge up your super, and that's what we're going to be playing around with today. Alright, here we are at the Grasp of Avarice dungeon, the beginning of it, where we do most of our testing it, and I'm going to show you how this build works. So, basically all you're going to do is get close to enemies, you're going to use your charge melee attack against them to kill them, and that is going to give you your melee charge back if you get a kill, and give you a ton of super energy. So, go ahead and check it out here. Boom, big chunk energy, melee back. Boom, big chunk energy, melee back. The more enemies we take out, the more super energy we get. We see we're already up to a quarter. Let me get out here. Get more and more melee kills here. Gonna take him out. Ooh, did not quite take him out. Dodging my melee charge back in. More enemies. Now, I don't want to spam it too quickly, because if I do it too quick, the melee charge may not come back. It can glitch sometimes, it seems. Or at least it seems like it. It could just be I didn't get a kill. Like right there, I definitely missed. Like you see right there, we're already up to super, okay? So I got enough enemies to use it. Yep, you can see right there with that super, we've got half of our super back again. So that means we don't have nearly as much to recharge with the new set of enemies. So as you can see, you can charge up your super very quickly using this build. Now, how does it work? Well, like I said, the powered melee is what's going to charge up your super so quickly, but how are we getting it back over and over again? Well, that's going to go into our aspects and our fragments. Now, the main combination to get your melee back is going to be with the fragment Ember of Torches, and then with the knock 'em down aspect. Now, the Ember of Torches, it says, powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. So getting a powered melee kill is going to make you radiant. And the knock 'em down aspect basically says when you kill an enemy using a powered melee when you're radiant, you get your melee charge back. So those two over and over again is what gives you infinite knives as long as you get a kill. Now, going over the rest of it, we've also got the on your mark aspect. It says precision final blows grant you and nearby allies increased weapon handling and reload speed for short duration, sacks 3 times, and activating your class ability immediately grants maximum sacks on your mark. We're really just using on your mark to give us those 3 fragment slots. Otherwise, we would probably just go ahead and use the gunpowder gamble, but I like the on your mark just for the extra fragment slots. But having knock 'em down, that part you have to have on here because that's how you get the infinite melee. Now, as far as your fragments, like I said, Ember of Torches is absolutely necessary for this. Next up, I was also using the Ember of Eruption, which causes my solar ignition to have increased Ember effects. Whenever I have ignition, as you can see, they were exploding much further. The Ember of Singeing, your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. Just in case you miss your melees or your melees don't kill enemies, you're still going to scorch them using that Phantom Knives. Now, scorched enemies are going to cause your class energy to recharge quicker and allow you to dodge quicker, which is going to give you back your melee. Because we're also going to be using the Gambler's Dodge. So Ember of Singeing helps just in case we don't get our melee kill. Ember of Mercy, when you revive an ally and other nearby allies when you revive an ally, you and other nearbys gain restoration. Picking up a fire sprite grants restoration. We're mainly using this for that second part, picking up that fire sprite, granting you restoration. And then, of course, we've got the Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. The Ember of Searing is going to help us make those fire sprites. So the way we can get restoration is basically getting a melee kill, getting that fire sprite. That's going to give us restoration and help us heal as well. Now, it's not going to be as strong as restoration times 2, but the constant healing is still going to help us survive quite a bit. Now, of course, we're going to be using Gambler's Dodge. That way we would get our melee energy back just in case we miss it. We're not going to be using anything crazy like Acrobatic Dodge or Acrobat's Dodge. We want the Gambler's Dodge to get that melee back. Of course, Triple Jump. Now, I've actually run this with two different builds. I've done this with the Fire Trick melee, and I've done this with Proximity Explosive. You can use the Explosive Knife. However, the explosions are not going to scorch enemies, so keep that in mind. So any fragments you have that rely on scorching are not going to work with Proximity Explosive. Now, the reason you might want to use this one is because, as you can see, there were some enemies where I was just not able to kill with the Knife Trick. Unfortunately, you have to hit enemies typically with a couple of knives, so you got to be pretty close with Knife Trick to actually get those kills with them. Now, Proximity Explosive Knife, you don't necessarily have to do that. You can be much further away. They'll do a lot more damage. They'll be a lot easier to kill enemies from further away. Or you can get Scorch using the Knife Trick, but you had to get much closer. So it's really up to you. I would suggest using Knife Trick. That's just me. That's only if you want Scorch. If you don't care about Scorch or getting your super back as quickly as possible, I would go Proximity Explosive. It's not going to be quite as fast getting your super back, but it's not much slower. Again, this one's going to reward accuracy a bit more, and you don't have to worry about only one of your knives hitting the enemy. You only have to hit the one, and this one will hit anything or blow up. It'll kill anything nearby it. So it's completely up to you what you want to do. But for this build, we will be using the Knife Trick. Now, for the stat spread, you want high intellect to help reduce that cooldown time on your super. Next up, you're going to want mobility to help reduce that dodge time in case you do miss a melee. And after that, then you want to put it into resilience. Now, you should be able to get these three up reasonably high with some decent armor. Again, you only have to get resilience up to 70, and then you can toss on a Font of Endurance and pick an Overpower. That will increase the other 30 points you need. So, again, if you're ever shy on any of these, you just got to put on the corresponding blue stat mod, pick up an Overpower, and it will boost it up the extra 10% or extra 30 points you need it. It's not going to show it on here, but it will boost it up for you. Now, as far as the mods, first off, we've got the helmet mods. We want 2 copies of Hands On. This is also going to further boost our super energy that we get when we get melee energy kills. You want 2 copies of that, along with whatever Siphon mod you're going to be using. You're going to probably want to use solo weapons with this, so go ahead and toss on a Harmonic Siphon, and we're going to get Arms of Power from solo weapon kills. Next up, for the arm mods, we're going to be using a copy of Heavy Handed and 2 copies of Focusing Strike. We're not going to be using a Firepower mod. We're going to actually be using the Healing Grenade to help heal us in case of emergency. So we can't rely on Firepower to give us no power. So our orbs are going to become almost exclusively from heavy-handed as far as the arms go. The 2 copies of Focusing Strike are going to help you reduce your class energy cooldown. In case you do have to pop your class ability and dodge to get your melee back, this will help you recharge that class ability as well. So again, they're going to feed into each other. Next up for chest armor, I just got a Font of Endurance on just so I can get my resilience up to 100. Really, you can just put on whatever reserve mod you want and whatever defensive mod you want to. Again, just depends on what you're doing. Just always try to match up your elemental damages if you need it or you're having trouble. Typically for at-level content, you don't really need the defensive mods as much. But if you're doing something like a raid or a dungeon, then you're definitely going to want to look to put on some of those defensive mods, especially the elemental damage ones. Those can be a big help in some dungeons. Past that, whatever harmonic reserves you want on, whatever reserve mods you want to have on. Next up for legs, I would toss on a copy of Weapon or Solar Weapon Surge, just because we're going to do most of our weapon damage using solar weapons, especially if we got something like Restoration going. So we go ahead and power that up. I will go ahead and toss on a copy of Recuperation just for that extra healing, much like we have our Healing Grenade. And then I would either do 1 copy of Absolution to kind of give you a boost to everything when you pick up an Overpower, or I would do Innervation. I would not do Invigoration because we got plenty of ways to get our melee back just by using a dodge, and we get that back very quickly. Innervation, we don't have a very good way to get our grenade back for our Healing Grenade, so we'll go ahead and toss on an Innervation instead. If not, go ahead and do an Absolution. Finally, like always, go ahead and toss on a copy of Proximity Ward. I would definitely go ahead and keep on Powerful Attraction, so when you do dodge, you get your Orbs of Power come back to you. If you want, go ahead and toss on a second copy of Powerful Attraction, and that will increase the range for that. If not, and if you are going to be doing a lot of damage with your weapons, go ahead and toss on a copy of Time Dilation. Now that will actually increase how long your armor charge stick around, which is essentially going to increase how long your solar weapon surge lasts for, by quite a bit actually, so. Recommendations are going to be either Time Dilation or Reaper, but it 100% depends on what kind of playstyle you're going to be doing. If you're going to get a kill with a weapon directly after, do Reaper. If it might be a little bit before you get that weapon kill, go ahead and use Time Dilation just so you're not wasting those Orbs of Power. They last a bit longer. And just because I decided I should probably go ahead and show people what I'm wearing on these videos too, here is what my Guardian is wearing. I've got the, I know I'm going to say this wrong, mesophiliagic shaders for for four of my pieces. I got Skelly Ghoul on for the legs. It gives it the all black legs with the streetwise strides. For the helmet, I've got on the Lux Visage. I've got on the Death Wish for it's the ornament for the gloves. I've got on the Deep Explorer vest for my chest piece. I've got on the streetwise pants, and I've got on the Phenotype Plasticity cloak for the cloak. So that is what my fashion is. So, like I said, this is going to be a build that is 100%. It's really fun to use it. It really is. I would be very careful. You're not invincible with this build. Oftentimes when I'm playing something, I'm used to playing Grandmaster, so I play a lot of builds where they can't see me or where it's invincible, and you can't shoot past my sword or whatever it is I'm playing, but this is a very fun build to play. You get your super back quite a bit. It's going to be great wiping out bosses. I mean, this is going to be a perfect build to do strikes, and it's definitely going to be a build that will help you do rage and stuff, especially when you got like damage phases you got to do. If you can play this one right, you can get 1, even 2 supers off doing every boss damage phase, depending on what rage you're doing. So, alright, now for weapons, you can use pretty much whatever weapon you want. If you're gonna be really leaning into the restoration part of it though, which I do recommend, I would go ahead and use some solar weapons, so that way you can make use of that solar weapon surge. Use some solar weapons, the BXR-55 Battler, that comes from the Dares of Eternity. It's a great one to use. I got the Apex Predator rocket launcher here, of course. This comes from the Last Witch raid. Pretty much any solar weapon you want to use here. The Callus Multi-Tool will be another great one to use as well. And they'll especially be great if you want to keep the restoration effect going. I didn't show this earlier, but equip the Ember of Empyrean. That will allow the solar weapon kills to extend the restoration effect that is on you as well. You can see it reads solar weapon or ability final blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant effects on you. So that will also work with the knives as well. So getting knife kills or getting weapon kills will keep restoration going on you. And for that reason, go ahead and stick to some solar weapons. But you are free to use whatever you want to do. These are just the ones I happen to run with this. There are no particular weapons you gotta run with this build because this is all about ability damage, and then getting your super back. So you can run whatever you want to. And that's going to do it for today, guys. This is a very fun build to play. Like I said, I like using this just because I can spam supers a lot. I am afraid sometimes when I'm going through and doing like strikes and stuff too, that people might think I'm cheating or like hacking or something just because of how often you can get your super back. You do have to be careful. There are some builds out there that can do some crazy things. Now, there are some people that do cheat in the game, obviously, but I think I'm just a bit paranoid because I do see cheaters a lot because of the content that I put out. And the stuff I look up, I do see a lot of videos of people cheating. I do know about a lot of that stuff, and I do know how bad it is in PvP. You don't typically see it in PvE too much, but I do sometimes think people might be freaking out, like, this dude just launched 2 supers in, like, less than 30 seconds. Something's not right. I'm afraid they're reporting me about it or anything, but don't worry about it. This build is totally legit. Like I said, try it out. It is a very fun build. I don't know what build I'm going to bring you guys next time. Like I said, I've stopped doing the previews for the next builds because I put out those initial 6 builds. Those are my main 6 builds, so I knew already what I was going to be putting out for the next video. So I don't know what build I'm going to do next. I do know it's going to be on the Warlock. I just don't know which one of its mini builds I'm going to be doing yet. So it'll be a surprise for all of us. So thank y'all for coming by. Like I said, sorry I was not in last week, so I do hope to try to bring you at least 3 builds videos this week. We'll see if I can make that happen. Thank you for coming by. Please subscribe to the channel if you like what I'm doing. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see any specific builds that you would like me to do, and I will more than likely do them since we don't have a lot of subs yet. And past that, thank you all for coming by. I will see you later.